I want to bring myself, like reintroduce myself for my services and my wisdom in a totally different way.
Uh-huh.
And I don't want people who are on the edge of, you know, that whole scene that I've been involved in, and to feel me, see what's going on, and try to get their hooks in me energetically and take the legs out from underneath me just as I'm building my house of cards, if you will. So I'm, you know, depending on, especially considering the content of this reading, I would not want you to publish it more than likely until, only if you want to, of course, but it wouldn't be until probably I have my website and everything.
You have total, you know, when you're working with me, you have total control of your image and your content and everything. And so that shouldn't be a concern. But if nothing else, I'm just practicing to try to get everything looking good.
Some of what I'm going to talk to you about today is actually really important, and it could be really important to a lot of other people. And if it's one of those things that I wouldn't really want people to, you know I know these things right now, because it could call attention to me, and, you know, I don't want more people having any really attention on me right now, you know?
You bet, yeah. And so, you know, we've been doing this for a while, and we've never run into a problem. So I you know what I mean? In other words, as far as, you know, in other words, as far as you having complete control of your what you want to get out. Yeah.
You've always honored our verbal agreements. But yeah, just so you understand where I'm coming from right now. I mean, like the past 3 or 4 months, I've been doing major work with the Armageddon software systems, the Armageddon timeline, and that whole consciousness. You know, that whole end times program, the Christian, Jewish, all that stuff, the Zionism, those timelines. And that's really big stuff. And then on top of it, at the same time as I'm going through it and debugging myself, I'm like a template for others and for the planet too, taking out implants. When I break down an amnesia wall, or I get through a program and I bust it up, that program isn't going to hit other people like that as hard. It's been taken out like at a root, you know. So things like that have been going on for years, and some of it is about the collective more so than just me and my programming, because learning how to deprogram and do what I'm doing for myself, it's had the other side of that is the other side of that coin is it's a collective thing as well, a collective service and a role, a point of light for the collective. So anyway, so just that being said, I'm getting to what I'm hoping, praying, I believe is really finally the tail end of like the operating system for me as far as that beast network goes, and that system. I feel like, you know, my birthday this year is going to be huge. My 40th birthday, it'll be like coming out of, you know, 40 years of being in bondage in the desert or in the wilderness, you know, and I'm going to have my reaper. So I'm kind of preparing myself for that. So just so you understand where my head's been. And
yes, definitely. It just so happens, out of coincidence, I was listening to one of our earlier tapes this morning, one that was not published. And it was just had some very powerful information in it. And this was when you were going through kind of one of these transitions, and you know you seemed a little bit out there. I mean, I know, so I know it's a struggle, but that was some excellent information.
And that's the thing too, is a lot of this stuff, you know, just being able to have myself and my body, my clone, if you will, this anchor point, this body, this corpus. Deprogrammed, clear of running those bugs, and able to use it as an anchor point and rise above and see things going on in the timelines and see things up there and see different timelines and be all over the place and come back here and communicate it to you and somebody else in a linear way. Like, that is a lot of crazy shit, and it's not easy to do. It's you know, I literally am all over the place, especially since some of the times that, you know, we've talked and I've been there with you forming this, you know, kind of mentorship. You know, I haven't put myself out there to the public. I have a handful of people that I work with because I know how much I'm having to clear up first. So yeah, I mean, absolutely. I literally am all over the place sometimes. And especially when the more fragmented I was, the more obvious it is. So like I have to go through periods of recollecting these pieces, bringing them back here and integrating it, incorporating it into this perspective and communicating it. And it's a balancing act. So it's all about me finding my balance, finding my strength.
And the discernment, you brought up the discernment time after time, and when we
That's what it's all about.
You're right, exactly. Because we've got your narrative is something that I trust, but we've all got other people that are seemingly that are very serious, and they're either fooled or they're lying or they're disinfo agents, and it just, to the average person, it can be mind-boggling to try to go through it and see what they think is real.
100%. And on top of it, at some level, everything exists. Every reality really imaginable, if it's out there in people's minds in a collective somewhere in time, it's there at some level. And people can be tapped into all sorts of different realities that they don't necessarily have to be in your reality. You don't necessarily want to merge with that reality. Just because something exists out there and can exist in consciousness doesn't mean it's necessarily a perspective you want to share. And that's where using our freedom of choice and our consent comes into play. But the more places you go, as long as you're learning, I'm speaking shamanically and spiritually, as far as going all over the place, seeing these different dimensions and seeing these different realities and interacting with different beings and in different perspectives, I shapeshift, energetically. It's a shamanic thing, right? So a lot of these worlds and things that I see and stuff that I perceive is because I take on some consciousness that fits into that world. Because I become that perspective long enough to hold that perspective and share it with the beings who are experiencing that reality so that I can see its existence and perceive it. So we're doing that all the time in reality too. I could turn on the news and I could pump certain news agencies into my head all day, and then call up somebody in politics, and we could talk about how the world is coming to an end and life is a living hell, and it's everything is a mess, and I could have a nervous breakdown. That reality exists, or I could choose to call in stellar light frequencies and star consciousness that exists in my star tribe and star family and in the earth from my soul. And timelines that serve my future potential and reflect what is meant for me at a soul level, not just what all is out there. Just like we don't go on a vacation to anywhere, we choose where we want to go. And we have that ability to shape and mold reality to a degree. And that's the power they don't want us to know we have. And so that's another reason why this field is so confusing, is because a lot of these realities do exist at some level or in some parallel timeline, but they don't necessarily exist consensually here. But some people want to bring it here. Right. And the way they do that is by getting us to believe in it and see it from their perspective and start to do with them, like what I do with maybe a being from the underworld, and start to see things their way and start to identify with them and start to give it our consciousness and agree with it.
They're using us as their projectors to project their movie, Yeah, and it brings up an interesting question, Tara, because you mentioned something about politicians just in, and we know that sometimes people dream about maybe celebrities or something, but this whole idea of, that you're going and you're talking to these other people or something like this, well, if somebody's famous and they're known worldwide, what protects them from everybody dreaming about them or everyone wanting to go talk to President whoever, that's my question. What does anything protect them?
It depends on the individual. It's like anybody else. Some of those people, some positions in the world, the people who are in them are there because they are aware of these types of things that we're talking about, but they don't speak of it, and they have to pretend to play the game like they don't, especially when you talk about positions of power, because there is a multidimensional war going on for the planet. And if we think that there are leaders and people in power positions and in military and science and things like that around the world who aren't actually aware of that, we are deluding ourselves,
Absolutely.
So there's all sorts of, there's no limit to that, the answer to that question, because you'll have, answers from one extreme to the other extreme. You'll have, the more somebody believes in, like, say, a judgmental God, and believe in they're fighting and they're bad and good versus evil all the time, and they haven't integrated their own shadow side, they're going to probably experience spiritual onslaught all the time. And a lot of that is their own aspects of their own consciousness needing healed, needing recognition, needing forgiveness and integration.
This reminds me of an article that you wrote, I think maybe about a year ago, where you were talking about phantom larvae, and something else, and the idea that a lot of these demons and stuff are actually created by your own mind and fed by it. I mean, you actually create these things.
Yeah, schemata, the word.
Schemata, yeah. And so that concept was really actually pretty new to me, and it just blew me away reading it. And that was a very well written article too.
Yeah, it's all energy. I mean, it really is. It's not all. Ultimately, divine consciousness is able to literally blink in and out this whole reality. So the timeline can shift in an instant, in a hyperblink. So the power is there to affect all things. But when we're experiencing creation from this dynamic, the perspective of being a human, and individuated, and with sovereignty and divine authority, over the elements, over the creatures, over the territory, on this plane. I'm sorry, I had so much.
Let me ask you this, because it's really on the topic.
I think I know what I did know for a second. I lost it again. But what I'm saying is, ultimately, aside from this sheer physical plane, it is all energies. They interplay together. They're constantly in motion. They're constantly in contact. They're constantly in contrast. They're constantly interacting. And what we're experiencing is an interplay of that. So if somebody on the mental or emotional plane is connecting with you through thoughts or emotions, yeah, damn right, it can affect you on the emotional plane or in the mental plane. Straight up evil off of, but more that they're being manipulated themselves. And having been there myself, I know how it can happen to a good person. So.
Especially if your light shines brightly. If you're a star by nature, or a star seed, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I can definitely empathize with these people. And his mom died, right? Under they say mysterious circumstances, but his mother was getting years ago was getting a breast reduction surgery, and which isn't normally considered dangerous, I guess. And anyway, she died, and then that brought up the conspiracy, the idea that he's quote unquote, sacrificed his mother for fame. And I of course don't believe that, but they have all those run those type of stories too.
Right, and what happens is, even if somebody doesn't want, he may not have agreed to that, is what I'm trying to say. He may not have been all for sacrificing his mother, but they could make him feel like it was his fault and wants to do that.
Or they could have sacrificed her for him without his permission.
Right, that's exactly what I mean. Right, and that allows them to control him more, because then he's they'll sacrifice anybody next. He'll do what they say, and plus he'll start to believe in his own evil too, and that's a danger for a soul like that who is trying to escape a program.
They'll guilt him, and he'll feel like, oh, if I wouldn't have been, aspired to be a star, then my mama would still be alive,
Right, exactly, yeah.
Tom Petty had been going around for a couple years. They tried to kill him. They burned down his house with him in it, and he got away. But he had been telling people for a couple years that they were out to kill him. And
I swear he died. That's a Mandela effect to me, because I swear he died a few years ago.
Oh, died before they said he died?
When did he die?
Tom Petty died a couple years ago.
Oh, okay. So I'm right. So he did. I thought you were saying he still wasn't.
Yeah, but he was scared for his life, and just and one thing they found out that this guy that's done a lot of these rockers and stuff, when they get them is when they decide that they're going to quit touring and making albums. And so they make their final album and they go do a big tour. And as soon as that tour's over or halfway through or something, they kill them right then.
They'll decide they're worth more money to them dead than alive. They're going to pump them for everything they can get. And that's what they'll do.
Yeah. I mean, back in the days of John Lennon and stuff, they used to actually kill some of these artists for their message, not wanting that message to get out. But now it's just straight about money.
Oh, yeah, and a good example of a real tragic one, I believe, because of the fact that she was so innocent in her soul, and I feel like the vibe I get off that was that it was done to her because of the fact that she was seen as such a nice person and a good person, that it would traumatize other people in the industry around her, is Aaliyah.
Oh, yeah, and died in a helicopter accident,
Or plane accidents being Bermuda Triangle, after she did the Queen of the Damned movie. And
you're right, just right on time.
Yeah. So you see why I don't want nothing to do with those systems and popularity and getting tied up with people who are tied into, that stuff. And because it's real. And
absolutely.
I would rather wait. I would rather make my own way in this world on my own, figure out my own energy and get my own sovereignty and figure it all out than have others control me and that's what happens. They trick people into situations where now they're being controlled. So the way you get into that situation is by taking the carrot. They've got something you want, and as long as you don't want anything, then they can't have you.
That's right. And it's just the reality is so opposite of what we were, trying to believe. In other words, when we were growing up, we thought the pinnacle of humanity, the ultimate human being, would be an astronaut. And now you and me know that the most mind-controlled person on the world is an astronaut, and an astronaut would be that'd even be 10 times worse than being a rock star.
Oh yeah, I tell you, they have a 14-year-old girl that they're grooming here at NASA to be the first. God, I can't remember what it is now, but the first woman to do something in the space program, and she was talking, and it was just like, it was so surreal because she went to space camp as a kid and won the Right Step Award, just like me. When I was a child, I wanted to be the first female space shuttle commander. She obviously stayed on that type of a program track, and she is talking and she's doing hand signals, she's saying things, and I'm like, holy shit, she is so programmed. Wow. So programmed. It's sad because she's so young and she's just been totally groomed,
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
But all of this, it's like, and it can be very exhausting and even depressing to think about all that and not balance it with the reality of the truth, which is the freedom and the light and the opportunity for liberation that we do have on this planet right now, occurring right now.
That's a positive message. I like that.
The timelines, these disastrous Armageddon, complete destruction of the human race timelines, have been being changed. They've been being changed. They've been being changed for years, and that's not going to happen anymore. So, but we do need to deal with the realities of what is going to happen, because we are going to go through a transformation. And staying alive and surviving, means adaptation to something new, something beyond what the gods and everyone thought we would amount to, because nobody thought we'd be able to come this far, that we would end up getting cut off, and it's not going to happen. So, speaking of liberation, that's a big message. But that I do see a future timeline for you in South America. And I think that's why you keep coming back to this, because the highest, this timeline that I see, this future timeline that I saw crystal clear last night, is one that you can make it happen. It's available to you. And I think it's one of the best ones that you have going. I think that's why you keep coming to it. And the more you get closer to freeing yourself, entails getting to know more of yourself. And as you discover more of yourself and you discover the bondage that you're in, that's how you reclaim it. So you can't expand your consciousness and evolve your consciousness and gain liberation in consciousness until you face your bondage. So you're experiencing this kind of surreal scenario where there's all this resistance, because scenario where you're ready to jump timelines. You're like, okay, when is this shit gonna end? I feel so restricted and so targeted and pinpointed here. The way that you've basically handled, you've had a lot of support. A big part of this message is you connecting with the divine mother energies, right? Like the goddess energy, Sophia. Those energies are trying to take you home, to bring you into a timeline where she's in control, okay? She's liberating you from these other systems that you're all tied up in, fragmented into, and playing with, trying to gain your freedom from all the time, trying to gain some room to move, financially and every other way. And, has been there. You guys have had many lifetimes together. It's not a new relationship. There is love there. You could definitely say you're soul family, soulmates. You've learned a lot together in this lifetime. But there's an element of comfort there that's no good for you, because what's happened is how do I say this without this coming off judgmental? Because it's not, it just is what it is. She is a powerful soul too. You know, I mean, I think the first time I seen her picture, I said, she's a witch, you know. She's a very powerful woman. She can manifest a lot into the world, and you know that. You know, you've known this from past lifetimes where she was like a priestess type of an image in your life. And there's trust there. But the thing is, she's like hit her glass ceiling in her evolution where she's got to work out her own bondage. She's got to work out her own power plays, her own superiority issues, and her own control issues. So that's where she's at. And until she does face those things and bring herself back to balance, back to core, back to uniting with divine goddess and not her, you know, the Hollywood goddess attitude, you know, she's only going to continue to play your manipulator from here on out. It's just going to be like, even the stuff that, you know, you used to be able to just kind of like depends on her more and have her like carry you through things or magically appear and rescue you or throw you a favor or whatever. It's like even the stuff that she would want to do for you, she's not going to be able to. It's not something you can rely on in the way that you have anymore. It's about you disconnecting that umbilical cord and opening yourself up to the real mother. She's been a reflection of mother, but she is not mother.
Yes. You
need to reconnect with that. And when that happens, it's like the energy systems that are coming in, it's mother's milk. It's turquoise. It's a bright turquoise